this is now the third encampment is started after a series of encampments, of course, in support of Palestine.
It started right over there on that little field of grass, which you can see it's all fenced off right now.
Just with a group of people very passionate about Palestine, seeing that Israel was almost going into Rafah. At that point we have almost been protesting for a year, and at that point we found it would be the right time to escalate, have protests that were a little more effective than just sending letters and hanging banners.
UVA students and staff have been pushing for months to get the university to break ties with organizations complicit in human rights violations, specifically thinking about Israeli organizations that are complicit in human rights violations.
And well, we're gonna sit here until we can't anymore.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
Well, the story, of course, goes back further. The story goes back quite some time. There's been student protests and student movements since the escalation in Gaza in October. Because of that, the students have escalated their actions themselves, mostly in response to police violence and police brutality enforced by the school, which has been arresting and also suspending students who have been involved in pro-Palestine movement from the school. In response to that, we started encampments on school grounds in support of Palestine. We started this afternoon at around, I think it was 1 p.m. We entered the ABC building at UVA to occupy it, to make our demands clear of, boycott, divest, and sanctions on Israel.
It started with a few small groups that were already organizing things. But then when Israel invaded Rafah, suddenly a huge load of individual people jumped to the game and all joined us, and from that point we organized autonomously. We all had direct democratic decision making, and we all just had the same goal, that is occupy the university to break the ties.
So students have different groups that are getting together in different chats, I guess. Staff also have their own chat group to come together in, and we invite any and all sympathetic staff to come join us and help organize. The students' organizations, you have, for instance, Students for Justice in Palestine, you have different UVAs, or student groups particular to the UVA that are helping organize. For months on end, these groups have been organizing to push the CVB in a direction that they're not complicit in war crimes anymore.
The staff all organized independently.
Okay.
So the staff saw the repression against students and then also thought, well, now it's time to do more than just sending letters.
Staff that already clocked way before the 7th of October that having ties with Israeli institutions or institutions that are generally complicit in war crimes is a bad thing, have been pushing the central board of the university for months, years, to finally have a non-hypocritical stance on human rights violations. Definitely. We're currently organizing together with the two prominent unions at the university.
There's many groups, including teachers and also other organizations throughout the city and the country which support our student movements. This isn't the only encampment. We have encampments now in Groningen, we have encampments in Nijmegen, we have encampments, we had encampments in Utrecht. It's popping off all over the place. Two universities have started making concessions. First of all, the University of the Arts in The Hague has vowed to break all ties with Israel and Israeli universities. Aside from that, other universities have promised to start looking into the ties, including the VU in Amsterdam. The UVA is actually quite bold in its stance, but we will not stop until they give in to our demands.
Free Palestine! From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! And that's complicity! And that's complicity!
We we of course feel great inspiration from what is going on around the globe. They also get inspiration from us. I've had students from Ireland and the UK and Spain talk to me about how they see our resistance against the police brutality and how it inspires them to make camps and demand more from the universities. So yes, it is definitely an international movement. There's definitely solidarity amongst the students from many different countries across the world. Well, we had support actions. On Friday, we turned up at City Hall and at the courts to demand justice for the police brutality. The encampment's main priority is, of course, to support Gaza in its struggle, but it is also, our demand is also to release all the detainees from their detention and for the university to drop all charges against the students.
We want the university to first disclose all their ties with Israeli institutions and companies. Secondly, we want the university to divest from all ties with Israeli companies and Israeli institutions. And we want the university to drop all charges against students that are now in great difficulty because of police repression.
The demands of the students are quite simple. To show all the ties that the university currently has with organizations that are complicit with human rights violations. Students particularly talk about Israeli corporations, institutions and organizations. The second demand is to cut all the ties with Israeli academic institutions. And then the third student demand is for the university to cut all or sever all ties with corporations that are profiting and complicit in the human rights violations taking place in Palestine.
It's students in tents, hosted on the lawn. Occupying the quad is really against the law. No reason to call, and the police and their squad. Where does genocide land in your definition, huh? Destroying every college in Gaza and every mosque. Pushing everyone into Rafah and dropping bombs. The blood is on your hands, Biden, we can see it all. And fuck no, I'm not voting for you in the fall. Undecided, you can't twist the truth, the people out here united. Never be defeated when freedom's on the horizon.
The university responded by trying to look like they were considering our offer, but the only thing they wanted was the encampment gone from their streets, and they only offered us like symbolic values in return for us going away, which we of course didn't.
General unwillingness to negotiate. I should say they proposed a 2-week freeze of all ties with Israeli academic institutions or generally institutions with complicit in human rights violations, which shows that they can do something about this stuff. They are willing to freeze it for 2 weeks, but apparently they need a little bit more pushing to actually cut them.
I do not know what the university will do. The university in the past has always denied being in charge of the charges, and yeah. We just want full cooperation from the university in trying to de-escalate this. Because the students were here for Palestine, they were here to convince the university, they were not here to be arrested by police and be beaten up.
One of our demands of the student movement is transparency in these matters, because they are not transparent in these matters. We demand transparency so we can figure out how big those ties are and demand that the university cut them off.
Well, our plan is to as long as we can, just make sure to express to university that this cannot continue in this way. And I think whether it lasts days, weeks, months, even years, all depends on the intensity of the genocide in Rafah, the intensity of the violence here, and of course the most important one, whether the university is willing to talk to us about our demands.
come with bulldozers, they come with attack dogs, the riot police in full riot gear, pepper spray, weapon sticks. They're just bashing everyone. They're going haywire. We saw it on last Wednesday on the Rokin in Amsterdam, where it wasn't even the encampment itself. It was the supporters on public streets who were brutally bashed and beaten to the ground by the riot police.
The police have been beating the students senseless. They have not been making a distinction between peaceful protesters and so-called violent protesters at all. If you're in the police's way, you're about to get beaten by a club.
Like hundreds have been arrested, tens have been in a cell, a few are still under arrest, and a few are in the hospital.
I personally do not know the exact number. I know it's more than 30, but I don't know the exact number of arrestees still being held by the police on demand of the UVA.
It should have never gone this far. People keep talking to me about the violence committed and the damage, etc. It simply should have never gotten this far. The university should have been much more willing to sever its ties with organizations complicit in human rights violations. It simply should have never gotten this far.
Mobilizing the riot police to enact police brutality upon its own students and staff faster than anywhere else in the world. There's many talks of violence, but the violence comes from the police. I want to be extremely clear, our movement has not initiated any violence. It has been 100% a response from the police. The mayor of Amsterdam, the UVA, they claim that we are creating a dangerous situation. The only danger posed is the danger of the riot police sent at the students to beat them like animals.
Yeah, I think the more repression there is, the more of us will jump up in order to protest against repression in Gaza and here.
Well, we are now in the second week of our resistance, and we will keep going as long as necessary, which is until the UVA promises to take into account our demands and comes to the negotiation table with a fair and honest proposal for breaking the ties with Israel and other companies that support the genocide that is ongoing in Palestine.
I assume students plan to continue. I should say, for me, this future lies in a staff perspective, in a worker's perspective. I think at this point it's up to us as workers to finally push this, to finally come together and push the Safer Bay in a more humane direction.
Goes against what our country is funding. Block the barricade until Palestine is free. Block the barricade until Palestine is free. When I was 7, I learned a lesson from Cuban Eazy-E. What was it again? Oh yeah, fuck the police.